I could talk about the 7 steps of creation as explained in Genesis, matched with the 3 phases of mind and the trinity of the 3 phases of mind. But they're not really helpful when we're facing challenges. They're interesting to look at to see how we process information. But on a Sunday morning, we need the simple truth. The Pharisees said to Jesus, "Tell us about the advanced metaphysics of the Bible." And he said, well, love God, love your neighbor, love yourself. You got that, you've got everything. And I went, oh gosh, couldn't get me. And that's what unity is. Unity is simple truth. And the simpler the truth, sometimes the harder it is to apply it. We have five basic, I call them 5 basic understandings in unity. They're very simple to get. You can come for the first time and really understand it, but it takes a lifetime to practice it, to really own these 5 principles. Sounds like they would be easy to do. They're easy, they're simple, they're not easy. The unity philosophy teaches that God is principle, and that principle is absolute good. That principle is love, life, peace, joy, abundance. The fullness of life and everything in it is all God. So God is not a person in the sky. God is the very energy we are all living in. The second teaching is that we, created from that energy, if God is good, then we are good. We are inherently good. How I choose to think about myself, I am so powerful, I get to choose to know that I'm good, that I'm a spiritual being, or I can pretend that I'm merely human and separate from everybody else. I'm that powerful. So I get to choose from this power how I'm going to react on the planet. The third teaching says that prayer and meditation opens our way to knowing this truth. That as I go within to listen to the truth, I will hear what I need for my life to work. The fourth is that our thoughts, our words, our feelings, and our actions are the tools we have to create this life that we are open and receptive to. But I can go in a very creative, joyful, divine way, or I can diminish my life and make it very small and puny. Again, I'm powerful enough to make that choice of how I'm going to live my life. And the fifth is, it's not enough to just know this. It's not enough to go to a class or come on Sunday morning. We have to apply it. And we have to know life is about celebrating the truth of who we are. With each other. That's why we have this every Sunday. That's why we have classes. That's why we do retreats and travel together. And other things that I'm looking forward to doing with this wonderful community here. These are the 5 basics that take a lifetime of understanding. I'll go through my day sometimes and think, gosh, this is wonderful. I really got these 5 basics down. And then I turn on the television, like I did this week, and wonder, what is happening? And where are my unity teachings today? As I'm yelling at the television. And those people I see on there who don't seem to be practicing the unity that I know. Anybody else doing that this week besides me? Thank you. So in unity, we know that we have a spiritual philosophy that is applicable and that works when we work it. Not only for us as individuals, but on a planetary level. If unity can't work in the world, then unity is not a workable philosophy. Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, the co-founders of the movement, never considered unity to be a denomination. They didn't even think of it as a church. Charles Fillmore saw it as an educational forum for the discovery of our spiritual selves and how to apply that in daily living. We also consider ourselves to be a Neoplatonic idealistic philosophy blended with the neo-Gnostic alternative viewpoint of the Christian, Judeo-Christian belief system. What? See, I have to go through metaphysical school and the seminary and get all that advanced metaphysical stuff to go, what are you talking about? In plain English, it means we steal the best truth from everybody. And we blend it together to make what we call unity. George Bernard Shaw said there was only one religion, but there were hundreds of versions of it. Only one God, but many ways that we have to get to God. In unity, we believe in the power and the reality of divine ideas, that ideas are the real inheritance we get from Spirit, and it's up to us to take these ideas and work them. To say, this is the truth of who I am. I am love, I am peace, I am joy, I am all the good. And speak and think and act these truths. But as we study religion, and that was one of the things we had to do in seminary, was to do a whole year on Christian history. When we look at where Christianity began and where it came from, we can't be too surprised to discover there are still vestiges of hatred and separation from those who claim that theirs is the only way, that their Christianity is the only correct way of reading it, that their way of looking at the Bible, they call literal, is the only way to interpret the Bible. Again, that whole year we had to study the Bible. Most of us were from Unity background, had been in Unity for years, and were appalled at having to read all this stuff, but it's what we have to do when we become a minister, to know what was the background, where did all this come from? I knew a little bit of it. We all know a little bit about how violent Christianity has been in the past. But learning the detail for a year was pretty daunting. We did a lot of meditating and prayer after that class. We know somewhere Jesus is going 2,000 years later and they still don't get it. Oh, yeah. What don't you understand? Love God, love your neighbor, love yourself. After Jesus left the planet, there had become political jockeying for position among the disciples. Paul's belief was that anybody could become a follower of Jesus, a ministry called the Way. And so he set up churches through Asia Minor and Europe to spread the news about Jesus. At the same time, Peter stayed home in Jerusalem and held that to be a follower of Jesus grew out of being Jewish. So you had to be Jewish and follow Jewish law if you were going to become a follower of Jesus. However, little by little, Peter was led by God, he said, in dreams and visions, to abandon the Jewish customs that he thought were no longer applicable to being a follower of Jesus, such as eating certain foods that were considered to be kosher, or following to the law the Sabbath rules. Both Peter and Paul had one trait in common, though, that we see expressed by many religionists today, and that is intolerance. They were both very intolerant of any other viewpoint except for their own. Paul had a very difficult time with people who wouldn't follow his opinion and his advice. He especially was down on the Jewish people who found him to be a bit of a nudge, quite frankly. He would kick dirt at them and scream at them about how awful they were, and then he would stomp away. But didn't Jesus say, shake the dirt off your sandal and bless them and go your way? I guess he didn't read that. He hadn't heard that. Peter wasn't much better. He cursed a couple who were holding back their tithes from the new community. They died right on the spot when Peter told them that God was coming for them because they didn't give. I leave that prosperity lesson with you. I remind you that we are having a commitment pledge drive. So intolerance for religious diversity has gone on from the beginning of recorded religion. If you didn't follow it our way, then you were of the devil. When asked why he was tormenting the Jewish population, Hitler replied that he had been doing to them what the Christians had been preaching for 2,000 years. He said, I'm not doing anything different than what's in your Bible. One early church leader said that on Judgment Day, God would reject those Christians who even talked with anybody Jewish. All prejudice, all intolerance can be traced back to that one source, and that is what a culture, what an individual believes about the nature of God. What do you believe God is? Who do you think God is? Our picture of view of what God is a direct reflection of how we're living our lives. If we live with an idea that God is a stern, emotionally volatile person, ready to strike us dead at any time like an alcoholic on a binge, then we're going to live our lives terrified that God will be displeased with us and that we'll end up in eternal torture forever. What kind of a God would create hell? If you were raised fundamentalist, you know what I'm talking about. For those people, the only way to win at life is to strike out at God's enemy over and over again, to witness to others, to save them from fire and damnation, hellfire and damnation. And that's why when you turn on these television preachers, they're always screaming, and they're in such anguish all the time. Our irrational fears lead a Jimmy Swaggart to declare that Mother Teresa was going to hell because she hadn't accepted Jesus as her Lord and Savior. If anyone demonstrated Jesus' love, it was Mother Teresa. He also said that you could get AIDS by having a gay waiter serve you. That's so Christian, isn't it? He really said that. Only living in sheer terror of an angry God can lead a person to say off-the-wall nonsense. But that fear seems to be so real to such a person who is deep into that fear. And that fear will become real to a fearful mind. Thoughts held in mind, as we say in Unity, produce after their kind. So if we're holding a belief over and over again, we're going to create that. A writer so wisely observed, there's no prejudice so strong as the belief that we're exempt from prejudice. One of those prejudices we have as a culture today is the fear of Islam. Mr. Trump is so afraid of Islam he thinks they're hiding in a caravan coming from Central America. That doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense. But fear creates irrational beliefs. Equating terrorism with Islam would be like saying all of Christianity is like the KKK, or Franklin Graham, or other really out there practitioners of what they think is Christianity. It just isn't so. At the end of the Quran, Muhammad says, "Oh Allah, change my fear into love." In our Bible, it says the same thing. Perfect love casts out fear. When fundamentalism of any religion, what it does is to take the divine truth and filters it through a fear-filled subconscious mind to such a degree that the truth has been distorted out of all recognition. A few years back, Pat Robertson called upon all of his viewers on television to cancel their Daily Word subscription because the Unity minister in Austin, Texas had performed a Holy Union ceremony for 2 women. I was working at Silent Unity at the time, and thousands of people were calling Unity to cancel the magazine because Unity was evil to allow such a thing to happen. You see, it appears as righteousness, but in reality, fear of diversity or different leads people to declare that God hates what they hate, which could be feminists or gay people or Mexicans or Democrats, museums that show bad art, tourists who block the subway door in the metro. I feel that way, so I guess God does too. George Bernard Shaw also said that God created us in his image and likeness, and we've been returning the favor ever since. But the Bible says God is love. Not God is love except for these people. How can love hate? Love doesn't hate, we do. We hate when we fear, when we fall out of God mind and into reptilian ego mind. We see the world as something that is dangerous. If we don't fear, we don't hate. Anti-woman feelings are about fear of the divine feminine power and has to be quashed. Anti-black and anti-Latino feelings are about lack of control from a culture at large used to white privilege. I mean, really, who fears Swedish immigrants? That was when Trump was talking about these certain countries. He actually said, why can't we get more people from Norway? Fear says, I have to put up a wall. We have to build a big wall to keep people out, which never works anyway. Walls don't keep anybody out. Anti-anything is fear that something is going to wipe me out, is going to kill me, take over, is going to change my world beyond recognition. What we are witnessing right now, we need to take a step back. What I got in meditation, what we're witnessing right now is the last gasp of the Caucasian heterosexual patriarchal domination. It is rearing its ugly head like a dinosaur, going extinct and having one last uproar. Because we know a generation coming up behind us, thank God, aren't having any of this. Now, if we get them to vote, that would be wonderful. But we no longer are going to be enthralled or held on to by the old way. It's dying off and it doesn't want to let go. Now we have to examine the truth. Now that we see this is what the plan is doing, because Scripture also says things of spirit are foolish to the world and things of the world are foolish to spirit. So the foolishness we're seeing really is the ego not wanting to let go. But it has to, and it is. But we have to hang on because the ride is a little wild right now. We have to begin to examine the truth. There's only one power, one presence actively at work in your life, in this country, on the planet, in the universe, God the good. Nothing else, that's it, God. But this God has wonderful manifestations of you, of me, of your neighbor, of people who live in different countries. All of us are multifaceted, unique, divine creations, never to be created the same way again. And what a wonderful thing that is. You are divinely you. What makes you up makes you holy and wonderful and perfect. In human form, we see division. I have a body here, you have a body there. Therefore, we are not one, but the truth is we are all one. As the wave is separate underneath the ocean, there's a connection. Our different human expressions have convinced us that the ego mind, that we are all different, alien, something to be shunned or diminished, or at least stood back from because it might be dangerous. Remember when Jesus said to the adulterer who was almost stoned to death, "Neither do I condemn you." There has never been and never will be any condemnation in God for anything that you are or anything that you've ever done. The great truth Jesus revealed at this moment was that God doesn't forgive you. God doesn't forgive you because God doesn't condemn you. God doesn't need forgiveness. I need forgiveness. I need to forgive. Because I was the one who did the condemning. Do you understand that? God has never condemned you at all. Like a 2-year-old asking for forgiveness for being 2. The parent goes, "Yeah, you're 2. Okay. You're going to spill things. Okay." There was no condemnation of a 2-year-old for being 2. There's no condemnation in us or for us because God does not condemn. Love can only love. Love cannot condemn. No matter how awful you think you've done something, God never blamed you. God has never and will never condemn God's creation. And we have to see ourselves and others as God sees us, as perfect expressions of divine love. Even white, straight men. Yes, all of us. But now divine order is balancing out, and it seems to some people that the power is being taken away, that their world is shifted. Well, it is shifting. But it's shifting for the good. Because there's no one more powerful than you, and there's no one less powerful than you. And our planet is slowly coming to the understanding that we're all divine, no matter our skin, our gender, our sexuality, whatever. We're all perfect just as we are. Sometimes people say to me, why doesn't God do something about hatred or fear or abuse or this killing or that happening? Why did God allow that massacre in Pittsburgh yesterday? Why did God allow 9/11 to happen? I was living in New York, and that was probably the hardest talk I had to give was a Sunday after 9/11. I said, God, what do I say? Speak through me. Why doesn't God do something about the shootings in the school that keep happening over and over again? Because God is not a person. If you think God can do something, then we're thinking about the old God, and that is not God. God is principle, God is love, God is light, God is life working through me. I'm the one who has to use God energy. If God is going to do something, it has to be for me to move forward as God in the flesh to do something. We say, why doesn't God do something? I would say, why don't you do something, Mr. or Ms. God? Because you have that power. The truth is, God can't see hatred because love can't see anything else but what it is. If it did, it wouldn't be God. Again, hatred is fear. Fear is the absence of love, like darkness is the absence of light. How do you dispel darkness? You turn the light on. Where did the darkness go? It wasn't there to begin with. It was just the absence of the light. As creations of God, I have to do it. I have to turn the light on within. We as truth students are called upon to feel love even when we don't feel particularly loving. I did not feel very loving this week. I'm sure you had your moments as well as I did. Love is the divine gift of healing. Rather than fight back, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, Mr. Trump said we should all hire guards outside. All churches and synagogues should hire guards. That's the answer. I put on Facebook, I said, a lot of us don't have that in the budget. Come to the board meeting and find out, if we have enough money to hire a guard. The guard is within. The power of God is right here, right now. We have to rise above fear and hold love to be the truth. True story about a rabbi and his German friend Helmut Mueller. Rabbi Spira met Mueller on a train ride one day, and every day throughout many, many years they rode the train together. And they went out of their way to greet each other in the morning, to ask about their families and offer holiday blessings, both Christian and Jewish. Well, one day the Nazis came to town and they took the rabbi and his family to the camp. One day during work detail outside the camp, the rabbi managed to sneak away and hide in an empty building until the prisoners went back to the camp. And it wasn't even noticed that he was gone. He went to a friend's house and they gave him food and clothing, and they somehow managed to find the rabbi's passport. The big problem they faced was the Nazi captain in charge of granting passport approval was probably the cruelest Nazi official in the region. 9 out of 10 Jews were shot on sight simply by requesting permission to leave the country. The rabbi finally got his courage up enough to go to the officer and risk his life for his freedom. When the officer turned around in his chair to see the rabbi, he yelled, "Dog, how did you buy this passport?" The rabbi looked at the Nazi and said, "May I tell you something? I am Rabbi Spira." The officer's face changed as he recognized his friend from the train. The two of them sat down, they reminisced, and they talked, and they cried over the death of the rabbi's family. Mueller took the rabbi and hid him in an apartment for a number of years, and he survived. The love for his rabbi friend brought the compassion so long buried in prejudice back into Mueller's consciousness. He didn't see a faceless, inhuman, non-human enemy anymore. He saw another person. He saw a friend. He saw a valuable being of God. Love proves again and again to be stronger than fear. Somebody shared with me a couple of years ago in a class that she dreamed that she forgave her fourth husband's second wife. I said, does that mean that you have forgiven her? She went, I guess it does. She hadn't really thought about it. She said, I dreamed I forgave her, but I guess I really did. And she said, I'm not feeling that animosity anymore. It's truly a breakthrough, a revelation from Spirit, that we have nothing to fear by forgiving and everything to gain, because forgiveness takes my power back. Another concentration camp survivor said the experience didn't embitter him. He said, I learned about love at Auschwitz. When I was cold, strangers shielded me with their bodies from the blowing winds because they had nothing else to offer but themselves. That's exactly what we have to offer the world. The only thing that we have to offer during this crazy time is ourselves. Our prayers, our realization that I'm a spiritual being having a human experience and I'm lifting the planet up now. If you need a TV news-free day or week, do it. If you need to do that to center yourself, turn it off. Go within. Do what you need to do to lift up you. The world needs our love, our forgiveness, our prayer, our attention, our realization of spiritual principle. Our unique selfhood as God's beings. As we sing at the end of the service, let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with who? With me. I have to be the one to begin this. There's God now. All right. So this week I invite you to release hate, release fear, release separation. We all have them, I know. It's a dance. It's 2 forward, 1 back, 3 back, 1 forward. 5 forward, 1 back. That's the dance of being on the planet as a spiritual being. We get sucked up into the illusion that somebody's taking my rights away. When we see things like the Master, we need to lift up each other in light. And do what God is calling us to do. Go to prayer and then move your feet. Maybe go to a rally, go to a march, write to someone. What is God guiding you to do today? That will bring peace. So we go to our thoughts, we use our words, and we do our actions to bring forth the planet that we're looking to have. So I invite you to close your eyes, breathe into your heart. Remember, God is the only power. The truth is, they aren't doing anything to you. They can't if we don't let them. And if they do try, we have the divine power to say no. You are perfect already. Breathe that truth in. I am perfect already. Means complete, whole, nothing missing from this being of God. My job is to bring healing to a hurting planet. That is my job today, tomorrow, the rest of the week, the rest of my life. To know the truth, and that truth sets us free. As we begin our time of meditation, we sing our way in with "Lead me to the light. Help me to make it through. Lead me to the light." Fear, doubt, anger we've been holding, let it go. It's not serving us as we move forward to do the work we need to do here on the planet. My job is to look through the illusion and know that God is right here, right now, guiding me, loving me, revealing through me what my job is. It's always prayer. It begins with prayer. It begins with peace. Peace, be still, and know that I am God, and that God has this. That I am a channel of God's love, God's peace. And I am guided perfectly as to what to do and how to do it. All that I need to know is right here. But I need to turn away from duality. I need to turn away from the perception that I'm being attacked. I begin by knowing I love myself just as I am. I love myself just as I am. We have a wonderful affirmation of silent unity. I am a radiating center of divine love. Powerful to radiate that love and to attract it into my life. I am a radiating center of divine love. Feel that light radiating into every cell, every tissue, every atom of who and what we are. Nothing is stronger than this love, this light, this peace, this God energy. Nothing can take it away. I can think I'm not powerful, but nobody has the power to take it from me. I am centered and poised in the love of God. Nothing can disturb the calm peace of my soul. Breathe that in, breathe out. For a moment, I invite you to behold a person or people that you have difficulty with at the moment. Whether it's a politician or family member, former spouse, former friend, let the love of God move from your heart. See them as creations of spirit who have forgotten their truth. See them healing from their prejudices, their fears, their language of separation, because it's not the truth. I no longer take what they say or what they do into my heart because it is not mine to take. I am a perfect creation of God. No one can harm. Breathe that truth in. I am a perfect creation of God that no one can harm. See this person as God created them. And know that you are a perfect child of God. And you are forgiven. You're a perfect child of God and you are forgiven. God is at work and hatred and fear are released. God is at work and hatred and fear are released. I free myself from you. You no longer play a role in my life. I am free and I am whole. Breathe that in. I am free and I am whole. In the quiet, just for a moment, all it takes is one brief moment to know the truth. God and I are one, and I am guided perfectly in knowing this truth. I love myself just as I am. I love you and release you. Breathe in. Breathe out. As we come back into this time and place, we sing our way back with the greatest thing in all my life, loving.